All right, we're back with part 2 of the Reklamation DNE build. In part 1, we chatted with Dave Norrie about how this bike came to be. We went over the frame specs and we talked through my parts list. Today we're focusing on one of the most important parts of the build, the wheels. Now, from a pure 80s nostalgia perspective, wheel building isn't the flashiest topic, but I know a lot of you guys out there are restoring old school bikes or building modern takes on those classics, and wheels are a huge part of that. And while not everyone has tackled wheel building or refurbishing wheels, it's a skill worth exploring. This video isn't a step-by-step tutorial, but it'll give you an overview of the process, the parts, and the tools you need to feel confident if you decide to give it a try. In part 1, I already walked through my full parts list and why I picked everything, but here's a quick refresher on the wheel components. I'm using Sun Envy rims. I've got a pair of Far East Cycles hubs with a freecoaster in the rear, and then I've got a set of double-butted stainless steel spokes from USA Spokes. And then I have also from USA Spokes, I've got a couple of different colors of spoke nipples. And then I've got a couple of rim strips from Deco. Okay, next up are the tools. And the one tool that you really need is a spoke wrench. A $10 Park Tool one works just fine. Technically, you can true a wheel right in your frame using zip ties as guides, but a dedicated truing stand makes life a lot easier. High-end Park Tool stands are great if you're building wheels all the time, but I went with a cheap Spin Doctor frame here from Dan's Comp for about 40 bucks, and these aren't available anymore, but from what I've seen, the West biking stand on AliExpress is a solid budget option for under 50 bucks, and if you don't like AliExpress, I think you can get them on eBay and Amazon for like 60 to 80 bucks. Some of the other tools I'm using include a nipple driver, which speeds up the initial threading of the spokes, and mine is a $3 AliExpress version. You can also pop them on with a toothpick and then spin them by hand, or you can spring for the Park Tool driver, which is really nice and runs about $20. You might also consider a spoke tension gauge, and a lot of people get the tension right by feel by squeezing the spokes, but I picked up this cheap $8 one on AliExpress, and when I checked it against my other bikes out in the garage, the readings were right in line with expectations. And finally, ideally you'd want a dishing tool to make sure that the hub is centered in the rim, and I decided to skip that purchase and instead go for a DIY route. And basically you can use a couple of cans or cups or something, and when the hub is in here, you could put a cup with some coins and stack them up till they hit the axle, and then flip it over, and if the gap here is the same on the other axle, you know that you're good. So with parts and tools sorted, let's talk about how I actually learned to do this. The learning process for me started with a lot of research, and I watched quite a few videos on wheel building, and honestly some of them made it way harder than it needed to be. Others spent way too much time on theory and details that just weren't helpful for getting started. The ones that really clicked for me came from Park Tool. They've got a 20-minute video that walks through every step of the process, lacing the spokes, getting the starting tension, truing the wheel laterally so it doesn't wobble, truing it radially so it's a perfect circle, and then finally dishing the wheel so the hub is perfectly centered. You may have to repeat those steps a couple of times to fine-tune everything, but the video lays it out in a way that's easy to follow. And then even better, they also put together a 5-part series that dives deeper into each of those steps if you want more detail. After watching those, I decided to practice. I took apart one of my daughter's old wheels, completely disassembled it, and then laced and trued it back up. It actually came out straighter than it had been before, which gave me the confidence to move forward with the DNE build. For this video, I'll time-lapse most of the actual wheel build, but I'll walk you through the main steps so you get the idea. I'm going with the 3-cross pattern, which is most common. I'll start by adding a little oil to the spokes so they don't bind. Then I'll lace every other hole on the first side using blue nipples. After that, I'll flip the wheel over and lace every other hole on the second side with light green nipples. And then we come back and add the crossing spokes in the remaining slots. And this is where the name 3-cross comes in. Each spoke crosses 3 other spokes from the hub to the rim. Once all the spokes are in place, the next step is to get a baseline tension, and we'll do that by screwing down the nipples here until they just barely cover the threads on each spoke, and that should give us a kind of even tension to start with. And then we'll start going around adding tension little by little until getting it true and round. So yeah, that's next. Okay, that took a little while. It's in the ballpark now. On this particular tool, I'm shooting for around 25, and it's coming in at like 21, 22. That'll give me room to adjust and then get the dishing and everything, and then bring it up to 25. Okay, so I've been working here. I've got the lateral, like side to side wobble really close. I've got the radial really close. It's almost like perfect. But before I go all of the way, I want to pop it off and use the little cups trick to make sure that it's dished properly, that the center is in line with the rim. And if it's not, before I bring it all the way up to full tension, that'll give me some room to kind of pull it one way or the other. And then we can dial it all in the rest of the way. Okay, so you can see that that penny just stops right there. And it just stops right there. I'd say that's within tolerance. That's really close. That's probably like, I mean, half of the thickness of a penny off, if that. So I think we're good to go. Okay, so that's it. The front wheel is pretty much done. I've been going back and forth here, just checking, getting the tension all the way up to, it's 25.5 is what my target is on this with this tool. It's a little bit different gauge than the Park tool. But yeah, I've got everything up to right the tension that I need them. And I've just been going back and forth and just getting the last little bits of the lateral truing, and the radial's good. They say that the tolerance should be 1/2 millimeter, which is 5 sheets of copy paper in between the little gauge here and the rim, from the point where it touches to the point where it doesn't. And I'm definitely, I don't know, 5, I'm down to like 2 or 3. So I'm well within tolerance. And the radial truing, you should have 1 millimeter or 10 sheets of paper, and I'm less than 5. So I'm really good. I feel like this is probably about as good as you're gonna get. The one thing though, you're supposed to de-stress. Some people will take it off and like kind of stomp on it a little bit. Other people will just go ride on it and then bring it back in and tweak it. And that's what I'm gonna do. I think these are in really good shape here to start, so I'm gonna ride with it. And then I'll come back in a few days after a couple of days of riding and just kind of recheck everything and make sure it's all good. Kind of like you do with fresh brake cables. So that's my plan here. So yeah, front wheel done. Let's move on to the rear wheel. That one I'll even go faster on the time lapse and stuff because it's just a repeat. All right, the rear wheel is finished. This one was a little bit more tricky than the front wheel. The front wheel, the flanges on the hubs are the exact same size, whereas on the rear, we've got the freecoaster side. The flange is quite a bit larger and the spokes are shorter. And if you give it equal tension on those, what'll happen is it's gonna pull the hub off over here to the left, and it's not gonna be centered, and that's what I was finding. It required quite a bit more tension on this side actually than I expected, so it was a little bit going back and forth with the dishing setup, but I eventually got it. It is perfectly centered and perfectly round and true, so I'm really stoked with how this turned out. But yeah, keep that in mind. If you're building the rear wheels, know that one side tension is gonna be a little bit, quite a bit tighter than the other. So that was my one hang up. But yeah, thanks for watching part 2 of the Reklamation DNE build. Hopefully this gave you a clear sense of what goes into building the wheels, and maybe even the confidence to try it yourself. Stick around for part 3 where we'll bring everything together and get the bike built up.